it made me really sad to see over and over again people in the same position of being just completely financially bankrupt. And I decided to take it personally. I was like, you know what? Like, this disturbs me that I'm only seeing them now. And how do I fix it? And so I decided to allow that disturbance to create something that was big. And so I think in this business, it's very important that a person does it because it aligns with their purpose, not because they want to make money, not because they want to create the passive income or create a massive MLM. I think it has to be your purpose. And the thing that I find interesting as I get older, as I think about purpose is always there. It's right in the middle of who you are. But depending on your life and how you're living, you orbit closer or sometimes farther from that purpose. And so I think if you are really clear, okay, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, then that is where you become very successful in this business because now people call it a why. I don't think it's a why. Why? You make money. So what? What do you do? I think it has to be because that's your purpose. And when I found my purpose is what Jared's talking about right now. I discovered that my purpose was to take the knowledge I learned from my mom, which is finance in the renewable energy space, and put it into Medicare. And I know that my purpose, like when I'm really close to that, what I bring to the world is movement. I create movements. When I was a missionary for the church, I could take an area and create insane momentum and reactivate people. And I could help baptize a lot of people. And in business, I could help people understand that there's a mission, a purpose greater than themselves, and that I can get movement from them. And so that's what really turned the lights on for me in my Medicare business was being like, I'm supposed to bring a movement because now people feel like they're in France and they're revolting and they're piling up the furniture and they're like, yeah, we're in the movement. We're making this happen. And that's when things really start to happen in this business is when people are like renting their coats, getting on their powdered wigs and muskets, and going to war. And that's something that I definitely think I brought to the space. But what Jared's talking about is I saw a vision of a way to team up with the hospital and audit the future. That's what the mission is. And people will hear that and say, audit the future? How can you audit the future? Like, I do taxes in the past. Like we do these deductions, we do this, that, the other. We don't audit the future. And I'm like, well, we can because in the hospital they have to take everybody in. It's just a legal obligation. They have to save everybody's life, the Hippocratic oath, right? And what's difficult about that is that finance is always the reverse question. They bring you in, you just robbed the 7-Eleven, you got shot in the chest, they have to save your life. They got to pay the doctor, they got to pay the specialist, they got to pay the nurses. You think a guy who's robbing a 7-Eleven has good coverage? No way. So the hospital's taking that loss. And I'm just thinking to myself, what if we could have met that robber like 6 months ago and got him on a plan and got him something that would make it so that when he does go to the hospital, he's going to be covered and the hospital doesn't have to take a huge financial loss because some guy decided to wake up and rob a store. And so I started putting my gourd on it and I started really thinking about it, mapping it out, studying HIPAA, and I'd been in that journey for about 8 months. And then I got invited to go to some schwanky little like tavern steakhouse by some technology guys. And I was like, I'm going to go check it out. And I had met with some big time Salesforce programmers, some guys that worked with Python and all these other groups. And I was just not impressed. I felt like the systems were non intuitive. I felt like it was very hard to work and manage. And I met with then advisor branch, now Swivel, and it just felt like a glove. Like I'd met my match. The slipper fit. And so that's how I ended up meeting you guys. And
Yeah.
to expand a little bit more on that too, a part of my movement is that with private equity bankers buying everybody up, and you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about them on the podcast, but everybody's selling their business these days. And you got to think to yourself, all of these little guys got in the business so they can have a book and they could retire and live on their renewals. But most of these advisors die at their desk, as we all know. And so I wanted to create a way where that little guy who knows the right things, who has the people skills, who has the product knowledge, who has been in the business long enough and not been shot by the sheriff or been breaking rules or laws left and right. I wanted to empower that guy. I wanted to give him a platform and data and training and resources so that that guy could make a huge splash and have more control over his business than ever before and be known as the billing consultant for this hospital. And so that's been a huge part of the movement as well. And that's I call it the movement because GalvaCare is a movement. It's not a business. It's galvacare.org because it's a movement.
You talk about this hospital, and I don't know. Matt and I are privy to maybe some of the model that you're running right now. Talk to us about your purpose, right? And then this ability to watch out for the small guy, and then what you created and how you're actually doing that. Share what you feel comfortable with, obviously, but this is a really unique business
Yeah.
model.
Yeah, definitely. So the business model is I work with hospitals and I show them exactly what we train to, every scenario, and what the agent is going to say and what they're not going to say. And the agent agrees to follow that script because of the compliance degree that we're held to. It's not just AHIP, it's not just CMS, it's also HIPAA, right? And I walk the hospitals through exactly what we're going to do. Because the thing that most people fail to understand with hospitals is that hospitals are concerned about infringement. They're concerned about liability. And that's why they don't integrate with a lot of third parties because they don't want to expose themselves to unnecessary liability. And so I took the liability approach and was like, this is what we approve that they're going to say, and this is what they're going to do. If they go off the reserve, then we hold them solely liable. You're not liable, we're not liable because you agreed to what they're saying here. We told you this is what they assigned to agree to, and therefore, if they go off the reserve, they're fully liable for what they do. And that has allowed an environment for the hospital to acknowledge that this could be a very viable solution for them. The model is that I train them up and I train them in a way that they can't screw up. Like literally, if you don't know which priority group someone's in the VA, you don't know which level of Medicaid they have, the tools that we've built, you will be able to find out or know what the compliant answer is. And it's just literally going through and practicing and familiarizing yourself with that process over and over and over again. And then once you pass a test, which is called the Medicare MD course, which is a course that I created, you get the certification, and then you're able to then pursue a hospital relationship. And then once you're in the hospital, then we're giving you access to certain data points as finance goes, not healthcare goes, to be able to assist the hospital in identifying the riskiest population that is going to them for care and being able to find plans that are more optimized for the hospital and the patient based on the patient's needs.